This is my current unofficial list of the best ways to advertise your home service or contracting business at the time of filming this video. Now, we're gonna start from the worst and go all the way to the best. And yes, I just got back from Orlando. I went to Disney World and I got a lightsaber. Now, why should you listen to me? My name is Steve Hunsaker. If this is your first time watching the channel, I'm the founder of the Home Service Accelerator. At the time of filming this, we have had over 500 home service businesses come through my company and learn how to run their own Facebook and Instagram ads, set up their own Google Maps SEO, and set up a bunch of processes and systems in their businesses, all without paying monthly retainers to agencies. And I'm also the founder of 2 home service businesses. I've had 3 in my lifetime. I currently actively own 2. So let's begin. So to start this list, let me preface. Every single thing you do in marketing will work. But remember what the title of this was? It was the best ROAS. And what ROAS means is return on ad spend. And so why that's important is some of these things might generate more sales than the other things and have like more ability to scale up. But as you scale them up, their return on ad spend ratio might get worse. And so, for example, as we go through, I'll talk about things that you can't scale. One of those examples is like your A-frame that you put out in the street. You can't scale your A-frame. You only have 1 or 2 A-frames in your vehicle. And so that's why the sake of this video is return on ad spend. So the money you put in, how much money do you get back? And so with that said, number 13 is going to be the pay per lead platforms. So that would be Thumbtack, Angie, Yelp, House, all of those other ones. If you are buying leads from somebody else, it means that they have better SEO and outreach than you do. Therefore, they are an arbitrage company of leads. They generate leads somehow themselves internally. They turn around and sell you the lead. Because you don't have the skill to generate leads at the same low price that they do or the resources, they can package those leads and sell it to you for a premium. But we understand that the way that those business models work for Yelp, Thumbtack, Angie, and all of those is they give your one lead to multiple contractors. And so the quality of that lead goes down the more people that lead is given to. Because if I pay for that lead, 2 or 3 other companies in my market, sometimes 3, 4, or 5, are also paying for that lead. So what happens? The lead seller wins because they sold that same lead to 3, 4, 5 different people, but you lose the more people that buy that lead because you now have more competition, more chances for the dog doo-doo buyer to just go with the cheapest option. So that's why it's at 13. Outside of 13, let me scroll here, get my wingspan up. Number 12 is EDDM mailers. Now, mailers are not created equal. EDDM stands for Every Door Direct Mailer. This is a program with your local post office where you give marketing material to the USPS and it's not addressed to individual addresses. The mailman puts them in each individual mailbox on a route. And so you go to the US Postal Service yourself, you have these things printed and properly made with the postage that you need from the US Postal Service, and then you pay them to deliver them on a route. It is cheaper than going direct mail, but there's a few reasons why EDDM is not super amazing for most home service businesses. The first reason is they don't get addressed to the individual. So it doesn't say Tim Smith on the mailer, it says current resident or something like that. That's strike one. The second strike is it doesn't differentiate between apartment dwellers and homeowners. And so if you pay for a route, you pay for how many mailboxes are on that route, but that EDDM route might deliver 150 to 250 of your mailers to an apartment complex on that route, or to every mailbox, regardless of who's home or things like that. So EDDM is cheaper than going direct, like with dope marketing or something like that. But I don't recommend doing EDDM if you don't have a history of success in mailers and you don't have a ton of spend to put into it. So that's why I put it at number 12. But you can also pay a company to source this for you. So there's 2 ways you can do it. You can DIY it and you can design your own things to the US Postal Service's standards, like postcards and different things like that, on their sizing, everything else. It's a lot of work. You actually have to do quite a bit to get it there, or you can pay companies to do it. Dope Marketing does EDDM, but they also do the Neighborhood Blitz mailers, which I think are better and more targeted. On the Neighborhood Blitz mailers, you can target by home value. You can target by income of the homeowner. You can target by, does the house have a pool? stuff like that, a garage. And so there's different parameters there where even though they're a little bit more pricey per postcard, they end up working better long term. So that for the sake of this, EDDM ranks at number 12. Number 11, 10, and 9 on this power list are going to be your print marketing. Now, there's nuance to print marketing, and I want to make sure I make something clear. Return on ad spend, as a business owner, you also have to account for time. And why I have these ranked low is yes, the cost of print for all of these things is extremely cheap compared to like running a Google pay-per-click ad or running a Facebook ad with a certain daily budget. But the difference is the reason these get ranked a little bit lower is its cost per print, but then its cost per distribution. And that's why these aren't higher for me, because these things don't scale very well because you have to source the people delivering them. And so flyers and door hangers and business cards are great. At the absolute bare minimum, you should have business cards in all of your vehicles. You should have them in your wallet. You should be throwing them on urinals every time you go take a piss at the local bar. Like, that's a given, right? But these aren't super scalable. But if you do try to scale them, you're going to have a labor cost associated with scaling these. And so flyers are super cheap. You can get them for 5 to 10 cents a flyer, maybe even less printed. So that's not very expensive. Door hangers are super cheap. You can get those for probably, 9 cents to 15 cents a door hanger, maybe even cheaper. But then it's going to come out to distribution. And so yes, flyers and door hangers are cheap, but then are you going to go do that every day as an owner? Like, are you going to go canvas for 8 hours a day in neighborhoods as an owner? Especially when you're scaled to our size? Definitely not. Right? And so the difference is you're going to have your teams do it. So at the bare minimum, the way that I would like you guys to do these is have your crews do the closest 5 to 15 homes of any job you quote or do a job to. Have them drop flyers or do door hangers on those closest jobs, because then you're going to start to get a little bit of the local presence in the neighborhoods you're already working in, right? So like your truck pulled up, you gave a quote, you did a job, your A-frame went out if you were doing the job, you got a Google review in that area, all the stuff we talk about on this channel all the time. But now, like, these will have a much better effect and a much better conversion rate in the neighborhoods you've already been doing other marketing stuff in than the alternative, which would be you just blankly canvassing a neighborhood with flyers all day. I don't think that's an amazing use of a scaled up business's time. If you're brand new and you have no jobs, that's like a little bit more of a reasonable thing to do. But like door knocking as an owner and like canvassing doesn't really scale. That's why I have these at 11, 10, and 9. They're wonderful if used correctly, but they don't scale super well. And the return on ad spend, once you account for time, isn't going to be amazing. So that's why they're up here. And going to number 8 and 7, I kept these on the same page, but I do want to discuss the differences between the execution of both of these. Number 8 would be public-facing yard signs. So if you use Dope Marketing, if you're in Home Service Accelerator, you get them for a lot cheaper through Dope Marketing. If you're in Home Service Accelerator Pro, I should say. Like, typically, I think my guys are getting the one color with stakes single-sided signs for like $3 to $3.50 a sign with stakes and shipping included. What we do here is these are in public places. And so typically what I have my guys do is they put a forwarding number on the public facing yard signs and they distribute those out, outside of neighborhoods, outside of, gas stations, entrances, put them in the Fry's or whatever your local grocery store parking lot is, whether it's a Kroger, an Aldi, depending on what side of the country you're on. Those are great there. Home Depot parking lots can convert really well. Tesla superchargers. And so on these signs, these are generic. You're going to put just your service and a forwarding phone number that isn't the same phone number that's on your website. So if a Karen who doesn't like that you put a sign in a public area, which will happen, Googles your phone number, they don't immediately know who you are. So what a lot of guys do is they get a Google Voice phone number, and that's the only thing they use it for is just their public-facing yard signs. Because then if somebody calls and they're mad about the yard signs, they don't have your business's name, they can't leave you a 1-star review, all that. And when you answer the phone with Google Voice, you can see that it came from a yard sign, so you answer it with an acronym. So for example, if my junk removal company was called Steve's Junk Removal, I would answer SJR Junk Removal. Acronym doesn't even make sense, but if 1 out of 10 of those calls was a neighborhood Karen, she still doesn't know who it is. So that's the difference with the generic signs. And then number 7 would be the yard signs in customers' yards. Again, extremely high ROAS, but not overly scalable. That will scale with how many jobs you do. And so this sign should be branded. They're drastically different. The ones that you put in a customer's yard, and typically you can convince the customer to let you do it for free, depending on your trade, this kind of matters. Like in my Christmas light business, people view the yard sign as somewhat of a flex. And so they like the yard sign being in their yard, which was a new thing for us. Versus like if you're a window cleaner, if you're a pressure washer, I don't know if you'll have the same effect. And so what you do is you give them a little carrot to let you put the sign in their yard. So maybe it's $5 off their invoice, $10 off their invoice, something like that. Maybe you just keep $5 Starbucks gift cards in your car. And all you do is you just tell them like, hey, this helps us a ton. And it like kind of shows where we were at. So if you just leave this in your yard till the next time you mow the lawn, we would love it. Otherwise, if you don't want to do it, no problem. You will have an incredibly high take rate if you just communicate that to the customers. You'd be shocked at how many people will let you do it. And then big deal, it was $5 a sign. That will convert way better than the public facing signs because you'll get a lot of the dog walker traffic and all that other stuff that comes in the neighborhoods. We get a ton of business from our customer yard signs during peak season. So that's why it's higher than yard signs there, but it's not incredibly scalable, and they're a little bit expensive per sign because you're going to want color, you're going to want it to be pretty, and so that's why I have it ranked 7. Most of the stuff I've talked about up until number 6 here is largely across the board working for every business. Once we get from 6 down to 1, I do want to say there's a slight bit of nuance depending on the trade. So I recommend you guys maybe put in the comments some questions about like your specific trade if you have any. But for the most part, these will work really well. So number 6 is Google local service ads. Local service ads or Google guaranteed. What they are is like when you Google something and then you see the little verified badge that says Google guaranteed or Google local service ads. I don't even know what Google's spitting out these days. I used to do them for junk removal and a bunch of our customers do them. But to be honest with you, the Google LSAs for junk removal were not very good because there was so much competition and the cost per call was crazy. But I have seen other businesses print money with this product. And so you have to have a super dialed in sales process to do this. And the reason why I say the return on ad spend isn't amazing on this is because to play this game, you have to spend a fair bit of coin. And so to spend a fair bit of coin, that means that your return on ad spend isn't going to be amazing because here's how the math typically works. Depending on your trade, one call from a Google LSA or a Google guaranteed ad is going to be somewhere between on the lowest end, like $15 to $25. On the highest end, I've seen Google LSAs cost over $100, sometimes in the high hundreds. I'm sure some markets, like maybe for roofers or something like that, I'm sure it probably creeps into the twos. And so because of that, you're not going to get this like 25x return on ad spend that you can get from some other marketing avenues that we'll go on to. But this is a really predictable and scalable paid marketing tool. And that's why I have it at number 6. But it's not offered for every trade. Like I can't run these for Christmas lights. There's not a Google guaranteed Google LSA for Christmas lights. It just falls under electricians. And I'm not competing with electricians on call. So I'm not even going to try to do it. And now for number 5, another Google product, Google pay-per-click ads. Now, this is a really good tool, again, if you have a good sales process. If you are a brand new business, I do not recommend starting with Google pay-per-click ads because you can set money on fire. I also think Google pay-per-click ads are one of the still remaining paid home service advertising things that I recommend hiring an agency for. I hire Striker Digital to run my Google pay-per-click ads for my Christmas light company. They've done a good job, but it is expensive to pay somebody to do Google pay-per-click ads because it is a skill and it's something that needs to be monitored closely by the agency or the owner. And if you try to do it yourself, it's a huge undertaking and you might still set a lot of money on fire, which I don't want for you. But if you crack it, it can print money. And so Google pay-per-click would be the sponsored links that show up somewhere in the top of when you Google something where it's just like, usually it's blue text and it says, $99 off same day junk removal, $99 off same day window cleaning, whatever it is. And it's like, those are the Google pay-per-click ads. So you pay Google for every click that gets clicked on your ad, regardless of whether they convert as a lead or not. Whereas when I was talking about Google local service ads, if you're paying for those, it's a guaranteed lead because they are calling you on the phone number Google provides or converting that way, which is a guaranteed lead. This is not guaranteed. And so if 100 people click your ad, you are going to pay for 100 clicks. But this is where the agency comes in. Your landing page optimization matters. Your speed matters. Your conversion rate matters on these. So if you have a terrible landing page, meaning like the page that opens up right when they click that ad, you will pay for the clicks and not convert anybody. And conversion in this sense means, did they give you their info or did they call? So that's why it's incredibly scalable, but as you scale it And as it becomes bigger and you spend more on it, typically your return on ad spend is probably going to fall somewhere between 4x and like 10 or 11x if you're killing it. I've seen stuff go higher, like historically my Christmas light business got higher, but as more competition fills into the space, you have to have realistic expectations with this. This is definitely a scaled business advertising product. If you're trying to spend $100 a month on this, or like even $1,000 a month on it, don't even bother, it's not worth it. And number 4 is meta ads. You guys see my content, I love meta ads, it's incredibly scalable. Now, the reason I actually put this little asterisk here, if you can see right there, is there's an exception to this rule. And the exception to this rule is if you have a higher ticket home service. So let's think about like roofing, pool construction, backyard remodeling, plumbing, electrical, HVAC. I would swap the rankings of Meta and Google pay-per-click and Google LSAs. Now, the reason why I would swap those is typically those leads are going to cost more on Google and the Google LSAs and Google pay-per-click than Meta, but the quality of those leads is going to be higher intent because on the Google products, they are actively looking for you. On the Meta products, you are interrupting them from scrolling Instagram and Facebook and convincing them to take action. It's doable on Meta to run HVAC, electrical, whatever else, but I would swap the rankings for the higher ticket home services because a higher intent customer who needs a roof is going to be incredibly valuable from the Google pay-per-click and the Google Guaranteed and LSA products. A customer on Facebook is going to be a little bit longer sales process unless you just so happen to like reach them at the right time. But remember, they're not actively looking for you on Meta. You're convincing them to use you on the Meta platforms, which is, typically Facebook and Instagram, which is a beautiful thing if you can convert them. So if you're a roofer, plumber, HVAC company, someone with a longer strung out sales process and a little bit higher average ticket, you absolutely can crush with Facebook ads, but you need to have realistic expectations. When you see a window cleaner start an ad campaign and get a sale the first day, that's not realistic for your service. When's the last time you sold a roof on any platform, regardless of marketing, where you got the lead and you sold it the same day? It's not gonna happen. You just have to have a little bit more realistic expectation if you're a higher average ticket business. Facebook ads are gonna do 2 things at one time for you if you do them properly. They're going to generate leads, first name, last name, email, all of that jazz, which we love, and they're going to fill your funnel. But they're also going to build brand at the same time when you run them the way that I teach everybody to run them, which is a lot of owner-facing video, a lot of storytelling, a lot of like referral strategies and things after you get the leads, things like that. And so you just have to be patient when you run this stuff. Like you're going to sink money into meta ads before you ever see a sale. But what happens with these higher ticket people with unrealistic expectations is they run ads for 2 weeks, don't get a sale, and they're like, this doesn't work. Dude, your sales process is super long. The lead you might generate on day 2 might not close until month 2. And so if you're measuring your return on ad spend in a 2-week period, you might eventually sell that lead a $20,000 product a month and a half, 2 months down the road. And so your campaign was not profitable, and so you went and shut it off because you measured it over a 2-week period or a week period, and then boom, the sale comes through that you got directly from Meta, and now your campaign is like a 20x return on ad spend, but the delay to the payment was so long and you got impatient that you thought your campaign wasn't working and you shut it off. But it was working. You just have a longer sales process if you have a bigger ticket item like that. So that's why it's a little bit interchangeable, and I felt like I'd be doing a disservice to the variety of different home service businesses that watch this channel if I didn't dive into that a little bit more thoroughly. So thank you for being patient with me there. Now let's keep going down to number 3, because remember what the topic of this video was. It was the best return on ad spend. And return on ad spend can be ad spend or time spent or whatever else. Google Maps SEO is free until you get really big, and then you can pay an agency to help you do it. But for the most part, it's free. And so I don't pay an agency to run my Google Maps SEO, and I dominate in my market for my lighting business. Like I'm talking where I want to be ranked, I am top 1, 2, and 3 in just about every little corridor of these zip codes I want to rank, and for the vast majority of the keywords I want to rank for. Like we're talking for my Christmas light business, there is a lot of Christmas light competition in my market now, and I dominate Google Maps. I dominate Google Maps for searches like commercial Christmas light installation, residential Christmas light installers, permanent Christmas light installation. Like I dominate my area for that. And what happens is when you get really good at SEO on Google Maps and generic SEO, you actually start to get really good at generating free phone calls. And you know what's better than a paid lead turning into a paid customer? A free lead turning into a paid customer. Don't know why I grabbed that, but that's incredibly important. Now, you're probably thinking, that's fantastic. I love meta ads. I love the idea of running meta ads. I love the idea of optimizing my Google Maps SEO. If that's you, book a call with Home Service Accelerator right in the comments here, right in the description. That is literally what we do. We teach all home service businesses of any kind or contracting businesses how to run their own Facebook and Instagram ads. We actually set up campaigns with you on a one-on-one call, record the setups so that you and your team have that SOP for your business forever, and we don't charge you a monthly retainer to run them. And so that's the difference. You're going to pay an agency $1,000 to $1,500 a month to run your Facebook ads, but everything they're doing, and I've talked about this at length in my previous videos, you can learn how to do yourself for a lot less than you think you need to from an operational standpoint with the help of AI. And then we also help you optimize your Google Maps SEO, which if you've seen my Instagram, you've seen our landing page for Home Service Accelerator and all that other stuff. Like, it is very easy to dominate your competition, but most of the time what I see is most people are not operating their Google Maps listing correctly at all, and they're missing out on a ton of business. So that's why it's number 3. Going down to number 2, I love the gift card and referral campaign strategy, because if this is talking about profitable marketing, there is nothing more profitable than giving a gift card campaign that turns a paying customer into another paying customer for very little money out of your pocket. So you guys have seen my videos about this at length, but the easiest way to explain this is if you're finishing a job for somebody, you need to implement our gift card campaign strategy. I'm not going to take a ton of time on this video to explain it. What I'll do is I'm going to pop up a little pop-up here at this minute mark, and it'll take you directly to another YouTube video that talks exactly about our gift card and other print marketing strategies that you can take and implement directly into your business. It'll pop up somewhere on the screen here. But gift card and referral nurtures are the best things that you can do to get more business, and so few of you are actually doing it properly, and you're so busy chasing all of the other things that I talked about to try to find a marketing unicorn, when the best return on your time and advertising dollars will be finding a way to give a gift card campaign and a referral strategy that actually turns your happiest customers into more happy customers. Because what happens when you get referrals from the gift cards or the referral nurtures we talk about is they close at a higher rate. And so it's less operational lag on your sales team or everybody else in your business, because these quotes you give out on through these advertising platforms will close so much higher than anything else, because this is what happens when a neighbor gives another neighbor a gift card. They go, all right, dude, they're amazing. How much did you pay? And then they've obviously had that conversation 9 out of 10 times. And so if they make it to you from a gift card, they've already probably been pretty hard pre-qualified, and also know that you're good because they've seen your work in the form of social proof on their neighbor, friend, or family member's house. And so what's interesting about this is if you implement this and you never get any referrals, it's probably very telling that your business is good but not great. And if it's good but not great, it means that you're doing just enough work for no one to bitch and moan, but not enough work for them to actually go tell their friends and family about how great you are. And the best businesses in the world rely much less on paid ads. They use paid ads as gasoline on the fire, and they have all of the stuff like this built to generate steady leads. So for example, for me, last year, 55% of our revenue came organically, 45% of our revenue came from paid. Every year prior to that, we paid more for paid traffic, and more of our revenue came from paid ads, Facebook ads, Google ads, all of that, than organic. But as we kept taking chops at the tree and optimizing our processes and our business, the greatest sign you could possibly have as a business is that your organic and word of mouth outpaces your paid, because that is way more profitable. There's no money going in. You're off of the paid ad hamster wheel entirely. And then you view paid ads as just cranking it up and gasoline on the fire. And that's ultimately the goal. So that's why the gift card and referral nurture is number 2. And number 1 is your A-frame. The A-frame is the best return on ad dollars you will ever spend, because you're going to spend $70 to $150 in this A-frame, and it will print you money for the entirety of your business. Here's how it works. You buy an A-frame. It's typically from a company called like Sinacade or whatever like that. It's like about 3.5, 4 feet tall. And then there's an insert in it that basically what you do is every time your vehicle is parked somewhere, you take that A-frame and you put it in the center of the road, a little bit off to the side to not completely stop traffic, but it's meant to look like a men at work sign and for a safety thing. But what it actually does is it acts as a mobile billboard on top of your vehicle wrapping that actually stops and slows down traffic and has them actually dial in their brain what's going on here. But the reason why this is number one is like we have people come into Home Service Accelerator, we'll help them design the A-frame to optimize it and all of that jazz. And they'll be like, dude, this paid for the program in the first month. And so the beauty of this A-frame is it goes out and you build it into your SOPs for every single time you park your truck somewhere, your van somewhere, whatever, and you do work. And it's much more of a direct response marketing thing than a vehicle wrap from what we've seen. And so the conclusion I've come to is the vehicle wraps are extremely necessary because they're very good for brand. They're very good for like your notoriety in the market. Like I have my buddies send me pictures of my 4 vehicles all the time flying around all over town. But on top of that, the A-frame combined with it does 2 things. It makes you look super dialed in, and it adds a little bit more juice with a direct response side because we put a QR code on there, we explain the service, make it look pretty, brand it well, all of that jazz. Most of the big home service businesses do this. I don't even remember who I stole it from years ago, but I stole it from somebody, just like every other thing that's talked about on the marketing side. Again, none of the stuff on this channel is like I created it from scratch. Now, I've created systems and processes that I think optimize a lot of the stuff that other people talk about. Because one thing I've learned scaling my home service businesses and working with a bunch of people in Home Service Accelerator over the last couple of years is that the marketing vehicles all exist, right? Like yard signs have been around for a while. Facebook ads have been around for a while. Google advertising, all of this stuff has been around for a while. I didn't create the A-frame strategy myself. But the implementation of those vehicles are where you win or lose. And what I mean by that is like the guy who comes up to me after a conference who's 55 years old and has had a painting business for 30 years and he's still in the truck and he's mad at the world will come up to me and tell me, yard signs didn't work for me, that's a scam. And I'm like, great, how many did you put out? And the guy says, oh, I put out 20 and they didn't work. And I'm like, perfect example of right vehicle, wrong execution. There's about 6 different things I could have told him right there that would fix it, but he was mad at yard signs, never did them again for, 20 whatever years. All I would tell him is, how many did you put out? Where did you place them? What did you actually put on the yard sign? And most of the time, something along the lines was lost in translation, and it wasn't the vehicle, it was the implementation of the vehicle that he lost on. And that's why Home Service Accelerator has blown up in the last year and a half, because all of the things that we do and implement in there for home service businesses are stuff that worked in my business. And at the time of filming this right now, last season, we did $800,000 in 50 days in sales in my Christmas light business. And this season, we're pacing for somewhere between, and I'm on YouTube, and so I don't want to undersell it or oversell it, but like worst case, we're going to do 1.1 million in sales in about a 2-month period this year. Best case, we might push to like 1.3, 1.4. I don't know how it's gonna land, but I'm giving you guys that range because I wanna be super genuine in my content and not exaggerate what I do in case we don't hit it. Because I'm filming this video in mid-November right now. So we could do more, we could do less, but realistically, that's where we're gonna land. And so all of the things I talk about on this YouTube channel, I'm actively doing in my businesses, and we're also actively doing in Home Service Accelerator. So if you want to join Home Service Accelerator, there's a link in the bio here. There's a link in the comments as well. Or if you want to keep consuming the free content, please, all I ask you is these YouTube videos are free and they're better than 99% of the paid courses you can find online. That's very clear in the comments. Please just subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment a few things that you liked from the video or things you disagree with me on. And then also you can find me on pretty much every other platform. I'm on Twitter or X, at steve.hunsaker1, something like that. And then I'm also on Instagram and Facebook and all the other platforms as well, wherever you consume content. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.